How's it going, everybody? Welcome to today's Ask a Career Coach. My name is Martin McGovern, and I'm a career advisor here at Udacity. We're going to give it just a couple of minutes for some folks to join us, and then we'll be diving into our initial topic of today, which will be about LinkedIn, and then diving into all of the questions that you have on your mind in regards to your career, how to find work, how to network, how to interview, how to build your online presence, and so on. So if you have questions, we have Rui in the chat. She'll be passing along those questions right to me. So please send your questions into the chat of this video, and we'll be getting to them throughout the next hour. Thank you again for joining us. I'm really excited to chat with you today, see what questions come up, and see how we can help you not only figure out how to do the job search in the best way possible, but also land that job that you really hope to get in the future. Now, as you're joining us, we're going to wait just a few minutes for folks to join the call. We've got a good number of you already sitting and waiting and watching along, but I just want to give a few more minutes for people to join since this is on YouTube Live. While we're waiting, give a shout of where you are in the world. We usually get people from all over the globe on these calls, so it's really interesting and exciting to see what time it is by you, what the weather is. You know, yesterday we had the polar vortex here in Chicago, so it was, I think, -40 wind chill, maybe even more than that. I went outside earlier today and literally had icicles form on my eyelashes. So it's kind of crazy cold out here. Curious how it is by you, where you are. Give a shout in the comments and start adding in those questions, those career questions that are on your mind. And we'll start collecting them right away. All right, I'm just going to call out some of the locations. Oh, by the way, yesterday it was colder in Chicago than it was on the surface of parts of Mars. Kind of a crazy thing to think about. Colder than the Arctic, colder than anything. That is true, Incredible Joy. Chicago is actually a windy city after all. We actually got that nickname in regards to our politicians being windbags. But the name really sticks because of how windy it is out here, especially over by the lake where I am. All right, it's 18 degrees Celsius in India. Thank you so much for joining us. We've got Egypt. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for the invite to join you in Egypt. I wish. It is brisk out there. Stockholm, Sweden. Very cool. Bolivia. Thank you for joining us, Gabby and Anna. Brazil, India, Munich, Germany. It is 9 p.m. Thank you for staying up late and joining us on today's call for me and tonight for you. 2 a.m. in India. Serious props to India right now. Wow, 2 a.m. I'm so proud of y'all. New York, 1:30 in the morning in India. Vancouver, Saudi Arabia. Guadalajara. India. Cairo. Thank you for submitting your first question, Haiti. So please, everyone, if you have questions, please start sharing them in the chat. We'll be collecting them and getting to them shortly. 1 degree Celsius in Munich. Whew, it's cold everywhere. Hong Kong. Awesome says hello. Hello, Awesome. Columbia, Raleigh, North Carolina. Chicago. Hey, Jay. I hope you're keeping warm over there in Chicago. Virginia, Ecuador, Indonesia, 3 a.m. Wow. Serious props for staying up late with us or getting up early, whatever you did. It's been raining for 2 days in Pakistan. Whew. Hope you're staying dry. San Francisco, -2 in Stockholm. Wow, we got some great folks in the chat today. Thank you so much for joining us. We're about 5 minutes in, so I'm going to get rolling with things and get the conversation started. This is a perfect time for you to start thinking about what questions you have on your mind and anything that you're thinking about. Even if it's not related to our main topic today, we will get into it. I know we typically don't get to all the questions in every session. So if you asked a question in a previous week and we didn't get to it, or you'd like more explanation, please drop it in the comments and we'll try and get to it today. Again, my name is Martin McGovern, and I'm a career advisor here at Udacity. My background is primarily in marketing, branding, and career development, so I don't have as in-depth of knowledge around the hyper-technical aspects of your job search. So if you're a programmer, if you're doing whiteboarding, I know generally how to approach some of those things, but for the most part, my expertise lies in how to communicate, how to network, how to interview, how to sell yourself, how to present yourself online, and so on in order to get the job that you want. So we can ask questions around strategy, around marketing, around networking, around all those different aspects. And if something is too technical, I'll just point it out. And maybe we can help each other out in the comments, or we can point you to someone on Slack who is more technical, who could maybe help get into the nitty-gritty on those more technical pieces. Today's topic is what makes a good LinkedIn profile. And this is a really interesting question because there's a number of different ways to approach your online presence, and LinkedIn in particular. When you're thinking about LinkedIn, a lot of people resist wanting to make one because they think, I have all these different profiles that I have to create in order to do the job search. Typically someone will sit down and say, all right, it's time to do the search. What should I do? And they'll Google, what should I do? How do I start my job search? And they'll get advertisements for every single job posting website. They'll get, everyone telling them that all they need to do is 3 quick things and they'll get that dream job. No worries, no fuss, right? At the end of the day, the truth of the matter is what you do in order to get the job really relies on how you communicate and who you're communicating to. So when you think about your LinkedIn, what is the point of it? What is the point of a LinkedIn profile? Why do you need to have it other than the fact that everyone who's a career coach like me is telling you to go create one? Well, the real value in LinkedIn is a number of different things. The first thing is it's just a totally hyped up version of your resume. So we're constantly talking about how you should try and get your resume down to 1 page, because at the end of the day, your resume is more of a brochure. So that's something someone will look at very quickly, maybe 6 seconds to 60 seconds, and then put to the side and continue a conversation with you. So if it's multiple pages, if you give them a booklet, the chances of them reading it, similar to if you're sitting in a doctor's office and you pick up a pamphlet, the chances of you reading all the things in that pamphlet are fairly low. You're going to skim, you're going to get an idea, you're going to move on. But the difference between a resume and your LinkedIn started as an amped up version of your resume, is that you can go into far more detail. You can list more experience. You can put more detail into the descriptions of each one of those jobs. If your resume can only list the most recent 5 to 10 years of things you've done, your LinkedIn can go all the way back to the beginning and cover everything in your career if you'd like it to. When you're filling out those descriptions on LinkedIn, you can start very easily. If you don't even have a LinkedIn, just get it up and running by copy and pasting your resume over. But what's really valuable is to use that space that they give you underneath the experience section and underneath education and different things like that, to really expand on these topics, to really take the bullets from your resume and give a little more context. A resume bullet, you want it 1 or 2 lines max, but you can add quite a bit more here. And the nice thing about it, as you're adding this information in, is that it's improving your SEO ranking. Now, your SEO ranking, that's search engine optimization. If you go to Google and you type your name in, what comes up? That's the question, because you are going to be Googled before an interview. And so when someone sits down and says, all right, I've got an interview with this person. I've got to talk to them in an hour. I'm going to Google their name and see what comes up. Your LinkedIn should come up, your personal website should come up, your GitHub, whatever else it is that you have up online, your online presence, so that that person can get a quick snapshot of who you are, what you've done, and what value you can bring into the company. So every time you add the skill set you use to accomplish a project, or talk about the skills you use to create some sort of application, Google is going to read your LinkedIn page and it's going to say, all right, this person mentioned C++ a bunch of times. That means they must be very good at C++. It's in your skills section. It's in the content of your experience. Maybe it's even in your header or in your summary. And then you move up in the search results. And that's the first thing I want to talk about with LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a place for research as much as it is a place to showcase who you are. So while on the one hand, it's a bit of a sales tool, kind of like a resume, where someone will look you up and be able to see a snapshot of your work history. On the other hand, it's also a research tool for them to find you and you to find them. The way that they find you is they type in programmer Chicago, and all the programmers in Chicago come up. Your name, you want to get it as high on that list as possible. You don't want to be on page 7. If you're on page 7, you're invisible. If you're in the first 10 to 20 results, you are much more visible. That's why you want to have a complete profile. Now, the other side of things is that you get to use LinkedIn as a research tool. You get to look up companies by their keywords. You get to look at content and see what is out there, what people are writing about. You get to look up people's profiles, see what work they've done, see where they work, and reach out to make connections. So it goes both ways with the research aspect. And then the final piece of what makes LinkedIn great and what makes your LinkedIn great is that you can also use it as a way to share articles, write things, and interact with people. It is, after all, a social network. It's not just about having it, putting it up, and leaving it forever. You want to be engaged with it. So if you are posting videos, posting articles, sharing things, commenting on posts, all those things are going to increase not only your SEO, but also increase your visibility on the platform. The more you interact with it, the more it prioritizes you. And so what ends up happening is if you're commenting on a bunch of posts for industry-related, job-related topics, you're going to pop up into people's feeds. And just like a Nike billboard or commercial or pop-up ad, right, you're going to pop up. And the whole point of that is visibility. If no one knows you exist when the problem arises, so let's say I'm working on something and I'm like, oh, I really need a junior developer to come help me with this project. I'm going to try and scan my brain for who's a junior developer. If no one pops into my head, I'm going to go to LinkedIn. I'm going to type in junior developer Chicago. You want to pop up in my head before I even go do the search. And if you're popping up on my feed all the time as the most active junior developer that is in my network, I'm not even going to go to the search bar. I'm going to reach out directly to you. But if, let's say, you don't post as much, you're not as active on the profiles, sorry, you're not as active on the website, then I go to the search bar and you want to make sure that your profile is optimized so that you'll show up there. So what ends up making a great profile? The first thing, completeness. Just make sure all the sections are filled out. You can tweak it. You can make it better over time. You can always add more as you go. But at the very basics, make sure you have a profile and that each one of the sections is filled out. The summary, the experience, the education, the volunteer work if you have any, and definitely the skills section. Make sure all the skills that you have, all the technologies that you use are listed in that skills section so that you can show up in search results. Number 2, the other thing that makes a great LinkedIn profile is an active LinkedIn profile. I'm on Twitter, but I barely use it. I just populate Twitter through my LinkedIn. So every time I post on LinkedIn, it shows up on Twitter. But if I didn't set up that, like, it'll post there as well, I would be dead on Twitter. No one would interact with me. And that's the thing. You want to be interacting with people, especially during the job search. So be sure to post, be sure to update your profile, and be sure to interact in the comments and things like that. If you don't know what to write, just interact with people. That's the basic level, and you'll share it. What will happen if you comment on people's posts is LinkedIn will share your name and your comment with their network and share their article with your network. So everyone goes up with it. And that's what's so great is when people post things and share things, they are hoping people will engage with it. No one wants to post something and get 0 likes. No one wants to post something and get no comments. Everyone wants comments. So go comment on the things that people you look up to or people who do the job that you wish you were doing are posting. Because then they're going to be like, this person's great. I really want to interact with them. And I guarantee that this works because I have personally interacted with tons of you in the comments of my own LinkedIn. And the reason that you have any clue who I am is because I post those videos all the time. A lot of you have even gotten hours of free coaching just because you commented in those comments. So it works. Go out and try it and just watch. LinkedIn will also give you a little section that says how much your activity is going up, how many people are viewing your profile. And that's really what we're trying to get. We're trying to get more eyeballs on your work so that you can be seen and get the job that you want. So that's kind of the intro, a bit of a long tail overview of why LinkedIn and how you can use it. And now we're going to jump into your questions and go a little bit deeper into what it is that is on your mind today. So please, we've got some great questions coming through, but add more to the chat. We've got about 45 minutes left here to really dig in and help you with your job search. Ooh, it's all right that you're late. Thanks for jumping on. Sorry, just seeing some of the comments coming through. If you showed up late, make sure you comment with a question. All right, our first question is from Hattie. What is the best way to write a short summary on LinkedIn? This is a really amazing question because there's honestly a lot of different ways to answer it. I've seen some really amazing profiles that are really out there, and I've also seen some that are very standard but work really well. So I'll tell you first, my favorite summary that I've seen in the past maybe year or two. My favorite summary that I've seen was someone who works, or I believe they currently work, in the self-driving car industry. So they wrote in their summary, my goal is to eliminate all human drivers from the road. Sounds kind of Terminator-esque, right? But it's, boy, is it catching, and it's burned in my brain forever. And so I thought that was one of the most interesting profiles that I'd ever seen, summary sections that I'd ever seen, because it said a lot about this person. It told me who they are. There's someone who's a little bit, driven, a little bit pushes the edges, pushes the boundaries, right? They'll say something a little out there on their profile. It also shows me what their goal is. And, you can interpret that by like, oh my gosh, all these self-driving cars are going to be taking people out. That's not what he means by it, of course. What he means by it is that his goal is the safety of the roads. And so he wants to eliminate human error from our roads. So by eliminating human drivers, you eliminate human error and you focus on safety. If every car was a self-driving car that had perfect those boundaries. I'm not even sure what all the technical stuff is called, but those boundaries around it that keep them from bouncing into each other, bumpers, invisible bumpers. If every car on the road had that, there would be almost no accidents, right? There would still be accidents, but compared to what we currently have, where everyone driving home from the New Year's Eve party is maybe shouldn't be on the road at that point in time, much, much safer, right? One of the most interesting, I don't remember the exact stat, but I have heard that, one of the biggest benefits that Uber has come up with, or one of the biggest outcomes or side effects of the Uber effect has been that teen drunk driving has decreased quite a bit, and accidents and fatalities and stuff. So this guy's onto something, right? And he puts it front and center in the summary of his LinkedIn. So anyone he's having a conversation with about sensor technology, about cars, about self-driving technologies, coding, everyone he's talking to the conversation can always come back to that main focus. How do we eliminate human drivers, eliminate human error, and improve the safety of our roads? So if you have something like that, if you have a goal that is that big, so for me, it's to help people get jobs. It's also to reduce stress and anxiety in people. So that's something that I showcase on my LinkedIn profile. If you have a big, long-term goal in your mind of what you hope to accomplish with your work, this is the place to showcase it. The summary is about talking about the future. It's really about being, here's what I hope to accomplish in the world. Now you want to back that up by saying, my background is, and it helps me do that. So for me, with a background in marketing and a background in coaching, I'm able to merge those skills in order to help people get jobs. And so I say the big goal, help people get jobs and reduce stress. And I do that by merging marketing and career coaching in order to help them get there. And then you can list any other skills and things that you have there. So let's say you're a programmer and you have a background in linguistics, like an example we used on a different episode. I had someone, they wanted to merge their background in linguistics with programming in order to create voice software that helps make our lives more efficient. And by saying that in the summary and then backing it up with, here are the technologies I use to accomplish that, and they just list off all the different programming languages they know, it improves their SEO. It's a quick thing for me to see and understand. And if I work for any sort of company that is involved in voice technology, I know this is the right person to talk to. So that's a great way to create a short summary. But at the very least, just say, I'm looking to help. Just at the very least, try and solve a problem. So if what you do is you create amazing front-end designs for company websites that allow them to increase engagement, then just say, my goal is to increase customer engagement through beautiful front-end designs. You're saying what you create, the value you bring to a company, and how you do it. And then you can even tack on who you do it for. If you want to be in the fashion industry, or you want to be in the sports industry or something along those lines. If you're that specific, you can add that in. But at the very, very least, say the problem that you're able to solve with the work that you do. All right, our next question is from Kartik. Our next question is from Kartik. How do I find the right jobs and apply using LinkedIn? Is it better or worse than just using my resume? LinkedIn, at the end of the day, is better than your resume, but it won't replace your resume. Your resume is always necessary because, unfortunately, every single application that you need to send in it typically is required that you include a resume. Now, I have been seeing more and more that you can use the apply with LinkedIn button, and that will replace your resume. But then the formatting will be weird. It'll have a lot of extra text, different things like that. So if you do that option, make sure you go through and check the text so that it looks good before you hit submit. So it's hard to say if it's better or worse. I personally think it's much, much better because it's more robust. It goes into more detail, all the things that I've already said on this call. And think of the resume more as like a check mark. You're competent enough to create a simple resume that I can review. It's one of the many tasks, one of the many check marks that you have to fill out. I don't think a resume will ever get you the job, but not having a good resume could lose you the job. It's kind of weird like that. Your LinkedIn is sort of like the backbone of how someone's going to find you online and see what you've done. So that's why you need that there. How do you find the right jobs? I want to address that one separately. So how do you find the right jobs? You actually go to LinkedIn and look at the search bar. And in the search bar on LinkedIn, they give you 3 things that you can search by. The first one is jobs. That's what we typically all spend our time on. And you can filter jobs by location, experience, industry, and all sorts of other things. But everyone is using that search feature. That's kind of what LinkedIn was built on. What's more interesting is going into people and seeing who can I connect with at these companies? Because if you don't have a personal connection at these companies, it's an uphill battle to even get them to look at your resume. So what you want to do is go to that people search. Also go to those filters, type in the job title you're interested in, the industry you're interested in, and your location, and it will give you a list of people that you can interact with and network with and reach out to. That is a really great way to do research in order to see, who out there is already doing what you want to do and how to surround yourself with those kinds of people. But also, what companies are they working at? As you go down that list of 1,000, 2,000 people, you can take note of all the companies that they're at and say, wow, those companies didn't come up in my job search, but they will likely hire another person for this role. If they've hired for this role before, there's a good chance they'll hire for this role again. So I'm going to keep an eye. I'm going to put an alert on that one because I'm really curious to learn more. And then a new thing that I'm testing out is doing the content search. So that's the third option that you have in LinkedIn search, is to search by content. So literally, if you click on the search bar, it brings up those three options. Click on that and try and search by keywords. And what you can do with keywords is you can type in the language you're most comfortable with in coding, right? So, Python, #Python, search under content, maybe even #Python, #hiring. And it'll bring up anyone who has posted about that recently. So instead of going around through the job listing and trying to get to the person, you go to the person first and then the job listing. So someone posts a thing, hey, we have a new role opening up for junior devs who can do Python, and they #Python, #hiring. That pops up. You go click on that. You reach out to the person who posted it or comment on their, either in the DMs or just comment directly on the post, apply to the job, and now you have a direct connection to the job rather than a roundabout connection through the job boards. So those are a few different ways that you can use LinkedIn to really amp up your search that are a little bit different, a little bit out of the box, and not everyone's doing. Everyone's going to the job boards. So try and circumvent it through the people search and through the content search if you can. All right, Deepak, how can I update my profile if I'm going to change my career, say from Android to machine learning? This is a great question, Deepak. Thank you so much for asking it. All right, so you want your profile to represent the job you want to have. So if a couple of things about your profile. People are searching for what they need right now. So I'm going to type in developer Chicago in order to pull up all the developers in Chicago. If your profile does not say you are a developer in Chicago, you are not going to show up in that search, and I will not be able to reach out to you. So what you need to do is update your profile so that when I look at it and take a quick glance, I can see that you are right to reach out to and talk to about this job. So if your header says seeking opportunities, you're not going to show up in my search results because I'm not typing in seeking opportunities Chicago. So you actually will miss out on those search results and showing up in those search results if your headline does not say the job that you're looking to land. So you need to update your headline to represent how you want to show up in the search results. Now you got to make sure that you have the skill set to actually do that job, or at least you're working towards that skill set. But if I'm searching for, in this case, someone who works in machine learning, and you still have Android as your main title, it's going to be very hard for you to come up in the search results. Then in your summary, you can say, my background in Android has prepared me to do X, Y, and Z with machine learning. And I look forward to bringing this combined experience to helping companies do X, Y, and Z. That will improve your SEO, but also, once I get to your page, explain to me your career evolution. And that career evolution is very important. I want to know not only what you hope to do in the future, but where you're coming from. So I would just make those slight tweaks to your profile so you can come up in the search results and explain that growth over time. I was in Android, I'm moving into machine learning, I'm doing my Udacity course, this is how I'm accomplishing it, and here's the value I bring to companies. So I hope that's helpful. Thank you so much. It's a great question. We need to not only look at these as tools that hold a history of our work, but also tools that are selling us for the future of our work. And that's the problem with LinkedIn. It's like walking that narrow line between the past and the future. We're like, all right, I don't want to be lying. I don't want to be making things up, but I do want to be pushing in a different direction so I don't get pulled the other way. All right. So give it a shot. If you have questions, share it with me on LinkedIn, tag me, something like that, make a post, or just reach out to me on Slack and we can take a look. All right. Vrushab, I hope I pronounced that right. Thank you for your question. I just started the Android Nanodegree. Do you think I should add this to LinkedIn? I have not yet finished it. If yes, how do I let recruiters know that I currently have a small amount of knowledge? Awesome question. And again, this is walking that tightrope between explaining what you're working on and what you hope to accomplish and what you have experience in and have accomplished. And it's a tough line. There's going to be a lot of close calls of what you want to include and don't want to include. And maybe you want to remove some old stuff and focus on new stuff, in this case in particular, as soon as you start anything, I see no reason not to add it. Even if you just purchased it, you purchased it, add it to your profile, because it will only help sequence you in those search results. Now, the chances of you sequencing to the top of those search results right after posting it is not going to be super high. It takes a while for Google to crawl websites, to update and everything like that. So I wouldn't worry too much about, overselling yourself when you're putting a Nanodegree in your profile. When it comes to letting recruiters know that you have a small amount of knowledge, allow them to figure that out. That's their job, is to vet you. And you're not saying, I am, the world's best Android developer. You're just saying I'm taking a course. And I think that's pretty common knowledge to know that if you're learning something, if it's on and it says, 2019 to present, it's pretty clear to me that you're new to this, right? So I wouldn't worry too much about trying to oversell yourself to someone, right? That's their job to do vetting. And so you just need to clearly state what you're working on, how you're working on it, what you hope to accomplish. And then when you're in a real conversation with someone, explain the extent of your knowledge and how you're continuing to learn. Those are conversations that you want to have in person. If you try and downplay yourself on social media, you're going to end up really hurting yourself, because this is what ends up happening. I'm reading something and I don't think anything negative about you. I'm like, oh, cool. They're taking an Android Nanodegree. They're working on their skills. They're building their projects. They're doing some good stuff. Maybe I want to reach out to them. Maybe I don't. That's up to me. We'll figure it out. But then I read through your description, and your description says beginner, or recently started, or whatever these negative terms are, these sort of self-deprecating, there's another word I want to use for this, but we always want to undersell ourselves, and it ends up hurting us because we're putting ourselves down. We're kind of telling them not to look at us, when in truth, they should look at us and then make their own decision. Don't disqualify yourself before someone else does. If you disqualify yourself for a job before someone else tells you no, so you say, well, it seems too senior, I'm not going to apply. Well, that person probably won't respond to me, so I'm not going to reach out. Well, I don't know if I'm ready yet to go to that networking event. If you keep doing that over and over again, you're never going to get any contacts, because there's always some reason not to do something. There's always something you don't know. There's always something you need to learn still. And so even with career coaching, right? Like, I'm doing this every single day, helping as many people as possible, but I clearly don't know everything. People ask me detailed questions about whiteboarding. I've never done a whiteboarding. But I can give general advice there and then explain my limitations and also explain how I'm continuing to learn. And that's what you want to get to. You want to get to the point where you're having a real conversation with someone rather than trying to explain it in like a short 1-sentence thing on your LinkedIn. So don't worry about it. Add it to your profile. And then when you get into the conversation, explain just, here's my experience, here's what I'm learning, and here's how I hope to bring value. Our next question, Virat, what is the best way to market oneself? I love this question. I love the fact that you're thinking about marketing yourself in the job search. It is definitely a whole skill set in and of itself. And that's why I try to help folks like you who, have these really amazing technical skill sets, but have not sat down and studied marketing, which fair, that's not your job. It's not your job to learn how to craft emails and do different things like that. But during the job search, it is a very useful skill to figure out how to communicate effectively, where to communicate, and all the things that go along with it. So the best way to market yourself. Because you asked the question, what is the best way to market yourself? I'm going to give you the very best way to get out there and sell yourself, and then we can step it back to some other options that might feel better for you. The very best way to market yourself online is to create something that gives you excuses to reach out to people. Now, what do I mean by that? The reason I'm even a career coach in the first place is because I created a marketing podcast and interviewed someone at the Muse, and then they offered me a career coaching job at the end of the interview. If I didn't ever have that podcast, I never would have had an excuse to reach out to the editor at the Muse, and they never would have had an hour-and-a-half long conversation with me that led to an offer, right? So it's kind of crazy. And I did that podcast for almost 2 years prior to that conversation happening. So I had no idea that that was going to turn out the way it did. But there were a number of other opportunities that came out of that, that one excuse to meet people. The podcast was every week I'm going to reach out to strangers, I'm going to talk to them, and I'm going to learn about them, and I'm going to find out cool and interesting things, and we'll see what happens. But just try and think about doing that without the podcast, right? Try to think about reaching out to someone and saying, hey, would you like to have a 2.5-hour conversation next Wednesday? It's like, that's a pretty big meeting. That's a pretty tall order. Well, what are we going to talk about? I don't know. I just kind of want to learn about you, right? I think that works when we're networking, when you're actively trying to build your network and you say, hey, I'm researching this industry and I'd like to grab coffee and learn about your job, which is like let's just say a light version of a podcast, right? But the podcast is what really opened up those doors, opened up those conversations. And the cool thing about it was giving value and getting value, sharing their profile, their information with my network, and then they would go and share the podcast and my information with their network. And so these are the kinds of things. If you can create an excuse to reach out, that's really going to help you. And I'll give you some other examples. I worked with someone who really wanted to attend sports tech meetups in their town, but there were no sports tech meetups in their town. So we came up with the bright idea to start one. So they created a meetup.com. They got about like 35 people signed up to their meetup group in the first week or two, and just by posting it on Meetup. And then they had a group of people, a topic to discuss, and they said, well, shoot, now I got to get a speaker and host an event. So they reached out to the CEOs and the VPs and the directors at all of their favorite sports tech companies. The excuse to reach out. I have an event. I'm looking for speakers. You seem like a really knowledgeable person. Would you like to be the honorary speaker for my event? They got the, I think, VP of one of the companies that they were really interested in working for to show up. That person gave a talk, had a really great conversation with the room, and at the end of the day, without even asking if they have any job openings, the VP came up to them and said, this is a really wonderful event. Do you happen to be in like the market for a new job? Because we're looking for some folks who are really interested in tech and programming and in sports. He put himself in a position so that he could have an excuse to reach out, conversations that were about the industry and how he could be helpful. And then eventually that leads to, wow, this is a valuable person bringing value into my life. I bet that they could bring even more value if I brought them on full time. These are the types of things: creating events, creating a podcast, writing a blog, and then interviewing people via email or whatever. But even at a lower level, commenting on people's posts, posting things on your social media sites. If you're not using your LinkedIn to share ideas, you're not using it fully. So that's another way to market yourself without having to create a website and a podcast and a whole brand and all this other stuff, because that's probably not your skill set. Just utilize the profiles that are there. LinkedIn is there to give you visibility. That's why it exists. So utilize the visibility tools that it has. So I would say probably the easiest way to start is just to pick your favorite 1 to 3 social media accounts and interact with people who work in the industry and do the job that you want to be doing as much as possible in between your job search and other activities like networking and stuff. The best way to build your online brand and to market yourself is to actually create it. Personal website, some sort of outreach mechanism, and then a history, a trail of the conversations, whether it's a blog post or a podcast or something like that, that showcases your growth over time. You don't ever have to be the expert. You just have to be curious, excited, and reaching out to people. So I hope that helps. Thank you so much. It was a great question. All right. This name is in a different language, so I apologize. I won't be able to read it. But we have a question here that says, I'm an electrical engineer and have full stack skills as well. How do I build a LinkedIn profile that can link these two things together? This is a really good question. I think the first thing to realize is, what was it that interested you in electrical engineering? And then what also interested you in full stack programming? There was probably something about, the technical side of things, the, maybe mathematical approach you take to stuff, whatever it might be, the way that you look at the world, and maybe even look at a few other hobbies as well. What is that thing that keeps you engaged in these topics? Do you enjoy building stuff? What is it? And then take those skills and start to think about, well, what is the impact I'm hoping to have with these, whether it's with one specific company, one specific industry, or, the world at large, like that guy who wants to eliminate drivers from all roads. What is it that you can build that solves problems for other people? If you can figure out what problems you solve, then you can say, well, how do I solve those problems? Well, I solve those problems by bringing, a full stack skill set and an electrical engineering skill set to this problem. Well, what are the aspects of that skill set that you bring to the problem? Then you break it down even further. Maybe take a personality test. 16personalities.com is a really wonderful site to just get some English language around your strengths and your weaknesses. Some very plain, easy to read, easy to communicate stuff. It's not, if you take a Myers-Briggs test, it tends to be very jargony, big words, big industry words. But this one is a little bit easier to digest and utilize. So you can start seeing what your strengths are. You can start seeing what your background, how the background connects. And then the way you build a LinkedIn around it is you focus on the industry or the problem that you want to solve, and you think about talking about that. So for me, it's helping people get jobs. So typically everything I share, I try to relate back to people's careers. So I shared an infographic about, all these different aspects, like education is going up, poverty is going down, all these great graphs. And I tried to connect it in some way to people being more positive about their job search, right? So if you can find things to share that relate to the problem you want to solve, and then realize how the skills you've developed from your background contribute towards that goal, I think that's probably how you're going to be able to bring those two things together. It's just two different perspectives towards a similar approach to solving problems. If you have a chance before the end of this chat to give us a little bit more insight into the types of problems you like to solve with full stack programming, full stack development, please do. And maybe we can go into a little more detail there. All right, we've got a question from Awesome. I don't have any work experience before in front end. How do I build a good profile? It's a great question. How do you build a profile that showcases your experience when you don't have any experience? Well, the first thing to do is, as the previous question stated, showcase what you've done in the past. And here's a good way to connect your past to your present. Like, my marketing skills are what showed me how to build a good LinkedIn. And then eventually I used that, or showed me how to build good social media profiles. And then I eventually took that marketing skill and now I'm using it here. So these things do build on each other over time. But if you don't have any experience, how do you build a good profile? The first thing to do is to just fill in the experience you do have. Then put in the education that you're getting and maybe list out the things that you're learning. And then create a new space under experience or under potentially volunteer, depending on what you're working on. If you're volunteering for folks, create a section that explores what you're working on, what you're going to continue to learn. Because I would assume if you don't have any experience in the field right now, you are trying as hard as you can to gain that experience, whether it's building your own products, building your own projects, reaching out to organizations and trying to help them through contract work, part-time work, full-time work, or reaching out to volunteer organizations and trying to support them to build what they need to build. So if you're a front-end developer, reach out to some front-end developer organizations, reach out to some non-for-profit companies, non-for-profit organizations, and see if you can help them with their front-end design for free. That way you can start putting it into your experience and building out your profile in the direction that you want to go. So the way that you actually build out a great profile when you don't have experience is to get that experience. But then also you can build out your profile just by posting and interacting online. So going back to what I said earlier, go on to the LinkedIn allows you to post articles, so you can write about the things you're learning, and it allows you to share posts, so you can copy and paste articles that you're reading and share it with the community. So those are two other ways that you can improve your visibility around the topic and start, showing up in search results for that topic, even if you don't have the actual experience just yet. But don't stop going out and trying to build that experience. All right. Shrikant, thank you for your question. Do I need to upload my resume or video resume on LinkedIn after completing my profile 100%? That's a really good question. And this addresses something that I haven't fully touched on about filling out your profile. The coolest thing that LinkedIn has done recently is allowed you to include media under each one of your roles. So you have your, you take your experience section and it has every one of your jobs. You link the job to the company profile, so you get their nice logo next to your name, next to the position. You put in your job title, you put in your years and months worked, you fill out the little box that says, what did you do? Here's my bullets and everything like that. And then you can attach media, any presentations you've done, any URLs that you've built, any apps, things like that. So that's a great place to showcase additional information. So like a resume, I look at your resume and I read, oh, you built these projects, but I can't see the projects. On LinkedIn, oh, you built these projects, click, I'm already at the project. Boom, right there. Do you need to upload a resume or your video resume on LinkedIn after completing your profile? Well, in your summary section, you can also include media. if you go to my LinkedIn page, you can see I've included a bunch of videos, career tip videos that I've been trying to keep up with it. It's kind of hard, but just trying to keep it up there so that we can continue to point people in the direction of the things that we want them to see. So I would potentially include your resume, but that's probably better on a personal website because it's sort of redundant to have it on your LinkedIn. A video resume, it's really cool that you have one. But again, that might be better on YouTube and then a link to the YouTube page. So, I mean, yeah, I would say submit, include anything that you find helpful. It really doesn't hurt unless it's like, bad content or something, which very rare. So if you think it will be helpful, include it. And the worst that people will do is just not click on it. And that's okay. But if you're using video, if you're creating video resumes, I think that's awesome. Put that on your YouTube channel and try and develop your YouTube channel a little bit. That'll show up on Google search results as well. And it's very, very, very good because not many people make YouTube videos. I mean, I know it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And, the younger you are, the more videos you probably make. But in the tech space, it's great to be building video content and getting out there. All right, we've got about 10 minutes left, so I'm going to try and find some. Oh, wow, we have so many questions. Thank you all for sharing so many questions. This is awesome. I hope to make videos around these questions, in the time to come, but we'll try and get to as many as we can here. Deepak, thank you for asking if I will share my LinkedIn profile. You can just find me, Martin McGovern, MartinMcgovern. Yeah, feel free to connect with me. Happy to connect with any of you and help out any way I can. All right, there's a lot of questions of how to use LinkedIn. So what I'm going to try and do here is share my screen for the last 10 minutes and walk through a bit of LinkedIn with you all. Let's see if it allows me to share my screen. Well, there was an interesting little look. All right, so we're going to go to LinkedIn. Go to the main page here. All right, so when you get to LinkedIn, there's all these different areas that you get to interact with. If you click here, you go to your homepage. So here's my homepage. I have LinkedIn Premium. So of course, I got this little gold thing right here. Edit your public profile URL. This is what the edit page looks like. So I can change my name here. So see how this actually has my full name on it. Everyone has a generic URL to start, but if you can put your name, your full name, if you can go, grab that right now so no one else steals it, that's going to be very important for your SEO. You're going to want to update your summary title here. Put your work below. These are all those posts and activities that I'm talking about. The more posts you put, they stay right here. Your activities here, and you can always see more. This is that big summary section, and I've put names of brands that I've worked with. I've put my interest in education, my interest in career coaching, and some of my background. So I'm a marketer, an educator, a coach. You can really just list it out and then explain it. Let's see what some of these questions are. So when you're doing the search, and I want to go back to that real quick. This is what I'm talking about with the search. People search, job search, content search. Content search is something that's fairly new and something I'm still learning, but the people, everyone knows the job search, but we can take a look at the people search here. People search allows you to filter by all sorts of different things. Always include all your connections. There's no reason to not look at people. There's no reason to count people out until they say no or until you can't find their email address. This is how you filter by your location. I typically don't use current companies because I don't like people to get too hung up on any individual company. If you know you want to work at Amazon because of voice search, then look at industries. And here's what you do to find industries that you can work at. LinkedIn industry codes. You go here and you can see how all the companies need to segment themselves out by industry. Computer games, cosmetics if you're into fashion, entertainment, fine art, so on. So I'd go back here and let's just say I'm really interested in marketing and advertising, okay? Actually, no, let's do e-learning because that's the industry I'm in. All right, so I'm really interested in e-learning. And then down here, you want to type in the job title. So let's just say career coach. We might not get that great of results because I'm so specific right here. Oh, we got 71 results. So right here are all the people in Chicago, 71 people in Chicago that are working in the career coach section of the e-learning industry. And I can reach out to these people and network and grow my network, surround myself with more people doing what it is that I want to do. So let's do the same thing for you. Clear those filters. Go back to all filters. All right. So let's just say, we had someone in India. We want to say industry code automotive because they're really interested in self-driving cars. And front end developer. 188 front end developers that work at these companies. So that's a company that hires front end developers that works in that industry. Contributor in vision to autonomous driving. Let's service.in. This is how you can really get out there and build your network. So I really hope that today you learned a few things about LinkedIn that you can go and apply in your own life, that you can really take. Oh, here we go. Let's stop the screen share. All right. I really hope that you learned a few things about LinkedIn that you can take with you to make your profile better, to improve the way you search and use LinkedIn as a research tool. And then the great thing about it is once you find all these profiles, you can connect with them. Before you connect, I would try and meet them and talk with them because typically people will do one nice thing for a stranger. So if you say connect with me and they connect, the chances of starting a conversation after that goes down tremendously. But if you send an in-mail, and some of you asked about premium, why is premium good? Premium allows you to reach out via in-mail. Not the most high success rate, but better than not having it. So if you have the finances, I would potentially recommend that. And so what you can do is you can reach out to those folks. And then once you've done that research, you can use a tool like findthat.email. Sorry, I thought I was still sharing my screen for a second there, but there's a website called findthat.email. But also you can just Google how to find someone's email and reach out to those people in order to start building relationships, building connections within these companies. The more you do that, the better it'll be. And then when you actually apply for the job, you've got an inside person who could pass your information along. And that's really the key here. You want to have your profile to just be good enough. Remember, your resume is just a check mark of things that they need to make sure you're competent. Your LinkedIn is a repository for what you have done and a glimpse into what you hope to do. And then even more than that, it is a research tool. So just get your profile to be good enough. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just try and get it as complete as possible. And then start networking, because that's where the real value is going to be. And if you use your profile right, you can go find a lot of people in that people search and build toward that career you really want to get to. Thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry we didn't get to everyone's questions today, but we will have more career chats to come. And I'm super excited to help you as you continue on your job search. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Feel free to send questions our way via Slack and the different alumni channels that or group channels you might be part of. And just, ping us and let us know what other questions you have. This has been Ask a Career Coach, and I wish you the very best in your job search. Thank you again.